Hello, everyone. The TTS League for Marvel Crisis Protocol is in its last weeks for Season 14. I'm interviewing the semifinalists to find out a little more about the players that have made it this far. Joining me today is Schmid. How are you doing, man?
I'm great. Happy to be here. This was the only reason I even tried to win, was to be on this interview.
Very cool. Yeah, I did mention that I would like to bring this back. I remember in Season 8 being interviewed by Xavier Protocols, and it was cool because I had read and listened to so much of his content, so it was a really cool experience. Anyway, so I'm trying to like recreate that to some degree here.
I think that's great.
The
Great thinking.
yes, so while we're talking about the league here, we're in season 14. You've played a few seasons now. What do you think of this season in particular?
I mean, it's been good. I mean, I'm happy to finally make it through in the bracket state or in the season and not through second chance. I know you just won second chance, so congrats, but I'm gonna shit on it slightly in that it felt really weird the first time I made it through because you just qualified 2 days ago and you're not gonna play in cuts until for like months at this point. And so it made the season feel kind of odd to me. I don't know, you've made it through second chance before, right?
Yeah, it
I
was
think.
awesome because I didn't have to
Yeah.
care about the
Yeah, yeah.
Swiss.
There is something nice about it. I'm not saying it's bad, but it is kind of interesting that like you make it now and like, okay, well, I got 3 months till the league matters. But I played in the West, I played East and Central and West. I do not switch because even though I say I switch because I think they're easier, I switch because of my kid's bedtime and it's just easier to get games at 10 o'clock Eastern rather than 7 or 8 o'clock Eastern if I play East. Um, but I had a lot of fun. Happy to go 6-0 and win the West. Like in Central is probably harder than East or West. I think it covers a lot more time zones and there's just a lot of good
Right.
players in Central. Obviously, there's two Centrals in the finals with a potential third coming in, so it'll be West versus Central. But I'm not even West. But yeah, it's been good. I enjoy the season. Going 4-2 a bunch. It's always kind of like, come on. But breaking through to the top four, finally it feels good.
Yeah, that is nice. You're so close now, you can almost taste it. So I just gotta say, from advice from being getting this far before, is just like don't let up on the gas, basically. Okay, so you've been playing Convocation though for the season here. The elimination brackets were locked. Of course, they're unlocked now with the big changes. How do you feel about them? I know you do a lot of videos on them on your own channel. So if you could give me a couple of little things you like about them.
Yeah, so post changes, I don't have a lot. I mean, I have thoughts, but we'll go in there at some point. The reason I really love Convocation, and I think it goes back to even before when I played Sam originally, and even maybe dabbled in Midnight Suns now, is I like the bump. I mean, that's really why I play Convocation is the bump. I think reactive leaderships such as Sam the bump, Midnight Suns isn't reactive, but it's something different, right? I think power leaderships are frankly quite boring. I know there's some cool things you can do with Steve One, Xavier. They are cool, like little gadgety things in the beginning, but like X Force is one, and I'm not here to shit on X Force because of Safsoon or anything, but I played a little X Force. It's a great leadership. You get a reroll the cover thing, but it doesn't do anything dynamic for the most part. It's just okay. Extra rerolls are great, more consistent damage. Same with the Red Skull 3, who I've played a good bit. So I think Convocation, the fact that it makes your opponent and you, there's like a bunch of little decisions you have to make. I'm going to bump forward. Am I going to bump back? I can go here and I can bump to the secure. I mean that little mini game and I think level that it kind of the stress air quotes that it puts on your opponent because even when I play against Convocation sometimes I hit them and they bump and I'm like man I should know that they can do this but I forget that they can do this so I can't imagine what it's like for people who don't play the affiliation and don't play against it a lot because they aren't that popular and so that part of it is what really draws me in. I don't really know the characters very well and I do like Doctor Strange. um but I mean, I never flip the leadership. I mean, for how dynamic any character, two-sided, and you don't have to take a specific character. I always take Doctor Strange. It's always on the bump side, and he's always my leader. So I basically play it as if it's written on his card.
Right, right. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I've played it a bit before too, and it's like the other side is like emergencies only. But
Yeah. I just want to comment on that. I think there are times you should flip it, and so when people ask me for advice, I'm like, I would keep it on bump side until you get really good with it. I just don't. There's so much to think about in Marvel, like more than people think. I believe
yeah,
that I almost just never think to flip it. Like I think two. One, I don't think about it, and I really don't want to ever get put in a position where I'm like scared to. I don't want to miss out on a bump because I wanted a freaking offensive reroll.
yeah.
That's that's probably the part that I really regret if like I flipped it and then I didn't get the attack, it didn't work, and then somebody hits me and I can't bump out of a double tap or something. I'm way too scared of what could happen. If it was like some more static um effect, like one power or some stupid thing, then you could kind of weigh the pros and cons. But because bump could be anything depending on when people attack you, if they throw you, blah blah blah, it's hard to gauge when you should flip it, but there's probably times where it's good too.
Right, of course. The so ultimately, you had to make a few decisions with a locked list. You were unable to make any changes, and everyone could see your list once they were all locked in. So, were there any characters that were on the cusp of making it in, or any ones that barely did? Like, how were you? What were you thinking about at the time of lock?
Yeah, so I think the two big ones would be whether I was going to play Dynamo or MODOK 2. I think MODOK 2 gained a lot of traction because of the sacrificing the grunts and he's some great synergies. But I decided after playing a lot of games, I've had like 100 convocation games, that particular combo, sure, it works very well on Demons 19, but when it comes to like meteors and intrusions and stuff, I think that Dynamo just works better for more the breadth of things I want to do. So I put him in, and he's not hard to play. So it's like it's an easy swap. Juggernaut's the one that's like he's in my roster. He's kind of like I like him because he bumps big. I have a couple teams that use him, but he probably shouldn't be there. So he could have been something else. If I could have thought of a really good scenario for that isn't freaking Nick Fury because that guy pisses me off and I hate playing him. Um, I would have put in a scenario for, I think. And so because of like 19 threat teams with like Rhino, Voodoo, Wong, Strange, and a four, I'm like, I want something to like complement them. So like even Ancient One could be I almost
Right, right.
contemplate putting an Ancient One because then I can drop Wong to Bullseye because I'm frankly a little bit I'm not anti Wong because he does a lot of good things, but even if you watch games with him, like if you're going five wide versus six wide webs like I did last night,
Okay.
like like if Bullseye was Wong, like he could have pinged a couple. There's people on one health that he could have like got rid of
Right.
instantly, right? And I didn't have to like waste another activation. Obviously, the game would have gotten that same flow because Wong does other things, giving power and whatnot. But there's times where I'm just like, I wish I don't want to heal. I want to kill. I want to ping somebody. So, you know, there are teams that if you take like not Wong, you can sub in Bullseye for affiliation purposes. But anyway, that's what I was thinking. Those are probably the only two. I mean, I make videos like you watch
Yes.
them. I'm
Well,
I'm not
sometimes.
shy about putting out my roster. Like
Yes.
people could have gotten 8 of the 10 models, and they might not have known if it was Magic or Mordo, right, or MODOK or Crimson Dynamo. It's not some big mystery out there what I play, and I'm fine with that. Like you still have to show up and play the game. I don't play the same way as every convocation player. There's a everybody in this game plays differently. Curtis plays differently than I do, and so just seeing it. Okay, what are you gonna tech in for me? That's so special, right? You have
Right.
there's 10 webs to worry about, and 8 Hellfires, and there's like 3 of us on convocation. I'm not
Yeah.
worried about somebody putting some in for me.
Well, speaking of Curtis, he is one of your upcoming or potentially upcoming opponents. He has his game to play tomorrow. And what do you think of your rivals or future opponents?
So the two that we don't know about, Curtis and I guess Loaded Dice. I
Azza,
don't
yeah.
I don't know anything about him. He's Australian. He seems like a fun guy. He plays Malekith stuff. I mean, it just seems like he loves to like, kill people. So I can't say much about him because I don't know him. I've never
Right,
played him. The
yes.
other three I've played. So we'll go with Geisman first. I don't know. His name's Dan. Is his
Dan,
name Dan?
yes, Dan.
Call him Geisman. I didn't know it was his name. So I played Geisman like 5 times in looking for game, and I started playing him because he plays a lot, which I respect. when he was newer. I think he was newer. I don't know how long he's been playing. Um, but he definitely was been on the grind this season, and it's nice to see him, to see him up there. Because he was, the first time I played him, he wasn't as good. And I was like, oh, yes, always see him looking for game, and now made it to cuts, and then he won his first three. Um, he is what I respect about him, what I like about him, is he goes for it, right? He will go pick up a midline objective with Daredevil. He will throw his models across the board at you, and he does it in like not a dumb way, but I think there's a lot of players out there that I don't want to. I don't know how. I know how good he is because I played him and he made it top four. But I don't. He doesn't go to a ton of events that I see and stuff like that. But that's a way to like get up there and win. Like do good stuff and put the pressure on people because I think a lot of the top players, some of them, they like to kind of sit there and be like, I'm just going to be a little bit better at scenario, and this person's not going to do anything. And then the person just pushes their miles across the board, and they're like, oh, I'm dead because they don't get to play because they're the perfect person knows how to rotate on D maps, and then all their models are dead, and it doesn't matter. So I respect that he does that and doesn't like shy away from it,
Right.
Because that's more like what I like to play like. Whereas I think Curtis and Sooner are on the other spectrum, where they're more calculated is maybe not the right word because I calculate things, but they're more I don't know, more scenario focused.
Risk
It seems
averse.
like,
Risk averse.
yeah, even though he's playing X Force, he still plays it in a way of like a little more cagey. It looks like, at least what I've seen. And Curtis is the most. I mean, if you put like a spectrum of like craziness, and like Curtis and I are like on opposite sides for the most part, even if I'm playing scenario. And then Sooner beat me at squad goals, and I've only played him the one time, but I know he's a good player. I mean, I think he won season 1.
Yes.
Right? Which is like when winning baseball when like there wasn't integration, so it doesn't really count. Like this is the real stuff now. This is where the real players are. So we'll see if he gets another one. But yeah, and then Curtis, obviously, I talk to Curtis every day for the last year and a half, along with Johnny and stuff. So we know each other really well. We're happy that we've avoided each other. Like our goal is to like play each other in the finals.
Yeah.
If we can. But the funny thing about him and I is we do not play friendly games against each other. And it's not like we dislike each other or we hate playing each other. It's I think we use each other to vent when we lose.
Right.
And when we win. And when we play each other, somebody has to lose. And so it's kind of like we just don't like, we're not interested. And because and because when we get to like big events, like because we play in all the lunch meets together and stuff, like we don't want to get matched up and be like, oh, we've done this 6 times already, right? We play enough in those to like keep it, not friendly. You know what I mean? I just don't play them a lot. Our whole squad goals team did not practice much versus each other. We like played other people,
right?
But they're all good. I mean, Geisman's probably the wild card. If I had to pick one, Sooner and Curtis are the one. If it is Curtis, I talk about Curtis. Ava, unloaded loaded dice. You might win tomorrow, and this will be moot. But I don't know you well enough to talk any more than see if you can roll dice and kill him. I'm cheering for Curtis, though.
Of course. Who was your partner at Squad Goals? And speaking of past MCP events, for any of the listeners who aren't familiar with Schmid's record here, I'm just going to run through a few of the highlights. Okay, so he's been in the top 8 before in season 12. He's been playing in the lunch meet events that Johnny has been hosting each pretty much once a month. They were 4-round events. They're now 5-round events because of the popularity. It brings in a lot of competitive players because they're online, and Schmid has won 3 of them, including the most recent one. And he's overall 26-3 across the last 6 lunch meet events, which is actually kind of crazy. So, this is you're doing really well, and not to mention you're on a 16-game ranked winning streak. You got a little bit of momentum behind you.
You gotta get up there to Curtis because I just stopped his 20-game win streak. So
yeah, he wants that back. He messaged me and he said he wanted that back. So anyway, of these events that you've played and of these wins you've had, are there any specific highlights or things that you can remember about these games or like your MCP history?
Like moments in the game that made me feel good.
Just anything that like comes up to your brain as like as something that you still remember, even though it's been X amount of time.
The one that I remember, it was my first lunch meet win versus Collar, and you were casting with Johnny. And I still go back and watch this because this is like you're like, oh, I did this and this was really good. There's like a play where like I attacked his drones to make my own strange bump
I
to a
remember that.
secure.
I remember
That's
that.
the play that I'm like, dude, oh, this is why I play Doctor Strange for like the triple scalpel, get on a point like play and to end the game. That's the one that like always sticks out to me. You know, I've played a lot of games. I think just winning the lunch meets. I think once I won one, I got much more comfortable. It's I don't want to use this phrase like act like you've been there before, but to some extent, like when you kind of break through and win an event like early at some point, like I'm happy to be in the top four. I hope I win it all, but I'm not gonna like. I'll get nervous before my games like I always do. But
Yeah.
you know, if I lost to Curtis the other day in the Lunch Meet Finals, I would have been like, all right, I made it here. I'm happy. I'm playing Midnight Suns. He's playing Hellfire. Like, what more can I want other than not getting stomped out or something?
Right.
So, and you know, not to. I've been doing gaming for a long time. Like, uh, I played Warhammer, I played Malifaux, I mean, those are the two main ones. I went to Europe for the USA team for like 7 years for Warhammer
Very cool.
and Malifaux. So like I like, and I only say that not as in like a brag, but in just like I've played in competitive wargaming for like 15 years. So it's funny that I still like get super nervous for like an online lunch meet, like to the point that like my stomach is upset before I'm about to play. Just like not shaking, but just like, oh shit. Now when I get in the game, I'm chill, like
Yes.
once it started. But it doesn't matter how long I've been doing this, I still get like super excited. So as calm as I sound now, the hour before my game, I'll be a mess.
I 100% can understand and have experienced that in my MCP history, so I totally get that. So another thing to talk about that of course is like one of the major storylines that have come out of this whole season. I'm a big fan of following MCP storylines. It's just a fun little mini thing that to do while as the meta shifts, as players become rise and fall basically throughout the MCP history. And so one of the big storylines this season, of course, is your Curtis, as mentioned, and Johnny. Both were your squad goals teammates, and you talk to consistently. Were all the top players in 3 different of Swiss brackets this season. So there were 100 players in Europe. And there was probably basically 200-ish players across those 3 brackets, and all 3 of your names were at the top.
Yeah,
So
and I'm really upset Johnny took that tie in the freaking Europe. They like shook on a tie so they wouldn't have to play like the tiebreaker potentially, like the playing game. And I was like, Johnny, go for the 6-0, man. This is so crap. Like, there's so many people in Europe. Like, just being at the 5-0, your strength of schedule is going to be way too high. I give him shit for that. I was like, come on, man. What's the worst that could happen? You lose and you have to play a play-in, which is very unlikely. We could have been 18-0 across the board. I'll point it out because I'm calling him out on it.
yeah, no, that's
Um, but yeah, it's
John.
funny because my favorite storyline of Cuts is Europe not being there anymore. Because they talk a lot of shit about being what they were like 3 of the last 4 last time, and they made the joke of like something coming in, and then so last time I was in Cuts was when CGR was still a thing, and I
Right.
would like track how many CGR wins there was and stuff.
Yes, yes.
Now it was like I kind of track Thanos in a little bit, but there's not a ton. You didn't see him a ton. He lost a lot early, which was high five to everyone who beat him. But I was tracking like how many euros are left, and I was like, "Oh God, this round they could all be gone." There was one in top 8, and I was like, "Oh, I wanted him to." I was hoping he would. He almost lost. He was the last game around the 16. I
Right,
think.
right.
No, there's more in top 8 this time. Never mind.
Either way, what
Yeah.
you're doing right now is you're setting up maybe some potential future rivalries.
I love the banter. I mean, if you can't talk shit. I mean, I talk to Joe Manji and stuff a lot, and Jim and stuff. So I think there's nothing wrong with some good old smack talk to keep things going. And you know what? I'll say it now. You'll appreciate this because you are invested. I like people who want to win and are invested in MCP. The people who go like, "Oh, we're just rolling dice. It's just a miniature game." Like you can think that
Right.
way, but I won't look down on somebody who wants to do well in this game and is proud of doing well. Now, if you're an asshole and a jerk to play, I don't respect that. That's not what I'm talking about. But like having a passion for it, I'm all for it. I love people with passion. The worst games I have, if somebody's passionate and wants to win and we have a good clean game, I love that more than the guy who's just or person who's just joking around being like not doing anything good. I'm like, this isn't what's not worth my time. I want somebody who wants it,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Um
100%. I love that what you said there.
So yeah.
Okay, so yeah. Anyway, so Curtis did send me a couple questions here, and he
Hit
said,
me with
"Who is the best meat man?"
the best meat man. I mean, I am right now because I won the most recent one, but he's won. Him and Johnny have won more than I have. He's We're all different. We're all different meats. We're all different cuts of the same cow. Of course.
Okay, all right. You got one more question from Curtis. He's trolling a little bit. He's wondering where all these wins were at squad goals.
Oh Jesus, he took him from me because I didn't have my rhino. That's why.
Yeah, didn't he force
We-
you guys into bad matchups so that he could get a
No,
clean
well,
5-0?
no. I mean, we might have wanted to flip the Sooner and Mike game with me playing Mike and Johnny playing Sooner. Like maybe that would have been, and we knew what they were going to do, so we could have flipped that. You were on the team, so you
Yeah, of
understand.
course, of course.
I mean, there was one round where he like legit. I was like, "Don't make me play that," and he like was like, "You're playing it," and I was like, "Fuck you." Honestly, I mean, I could have won the game for Sooner. Like,
Right.
there's nothing like to the point of like I'm not like gonna blame not having Rhino. I probably would have used him in that situation. But if you want to really know, it's I'm just a Rhino shell stand, and that's all I have the way to win. It's the DeLuca answer, right? Like that's what DeLuca wants to hear. If you want me to hear me say it, Mike, I need my Rhino to win, and I didn't have him. It's so different without him. Like I'm back with him. Like when I came back, I obviously put him back in my
Right.
list, and I was just like so much more scenario focused. I mean, I still kill things, but you're robbing people and voodooing people, and I'm like, man, this is so much easier than just trying to kill their stuff. Um, but it was Rhino. He took him from me. He took all the good shit. Like he lost like one model to like Johnny. Like Cat was like the only thing he wasn't allowed to have. He had like everything else. So Ultron. I took Ultron, but
Yeah.
we also could pair for him.
Yeah. There's lots of
You know,
yeah, go ahead.
what I'm gonna give. I've been in a lot of team events, obviously for other game stuff. Curtis, I'm specifically calling out him just because he won every game and Johnny and I lost in the important round. He is a great teammate. He never blames his team. He understands, like, not understands, but he understood, like, we're trying to do this or that. And he wouldn't avoid Mike, I think. Like, he knows his role. He knows we're going to put him in the best position possible. Obviously, he could beat anybody at that tournament. We didn't have to do anything special. But, he's not going to get upset when you lose. He knew we had good players versus good players, and anything can happen. And he never, despite that, I know he wants to win. I know we all want to win. He was he never like got mad at anything. He was just like, "Oh, this shit happens," you know.
Yeah. Yeah, for all the joking that Curtis and I may do towards each other, like he's provided me a lot of winning advice, and I try to do the same for him when he asks. So, do you have a local game store? What is your scene like?
My scene is my computer. No, that's actually not true. So I don't go to. So I have a bunch of game stores like in proximity of like an hour to an hour and a half, and shorter than that. And so we actually have a local circuit, air quotes, which does like just started this year. But the idea is 4 events. You get points for coming in the top 10. Whoever gets the most points wins like a cup, and then like the top 8 make it to another tournament for like a belt.
Very
It's
cool.
called like the I don't know something circuit, Mid Atlantic Circuit, but they're all at different stores. So there's like 4 stores, probably like I said, between half hour and an hour and a half for me, and they're quarterly. So that's the mainly my local scene. And I mean, the last one got 32 people, 36 people, I think, and it had a wait list still. So they're big events, like they're not small. So there definitely some people, Ryan and some other swooper, are doing a great job growing the scene. And I think they're trying to merge it with like something in the Northeast, like doing a New York circuit and stuff, and then at the end we all send each other like the best, send each other and compete. Which it'll be just a massacre, like the pork roll versus Montreal. So I don't know why the New York would send anybody, but
You
you
don't
know,
you don't you don't believe in your meta? Is that what you're saying?
oh, I'm gonna steamroll the pork.
Oh, okay, okay.
I am, I am the
You
points
are
leader right
you
now.
are the shark. Yeah, okay, I gotcha.
But no, it's like I said, I don't do a game night. It's just my kid goes to bed too late. That's why TTS. I mean, listen, if it wasn't for TTS, I wouldn't play Marvel because of my kid, and how young he is. And just like after work, I don't want to drive an hour to
You're right.
play in person. I do have a good bit of friends who play, so we will do Like I'm gonna have a game night at my house in like a couple weeks where I have like 6 guys come over and play MCP and Age of Sigmar. Some of them play Age of Sigmar and just hang out. So like I like that, but it's really TTS.
Yeah,
In the middle of
I get
court.
that.
It's so simple, man. I mean, I don't have to get dressed. I don't have to drive anywhere. I don't have to mark unmarked mats or some stupid stuff. It's just so easy. I love it. I love it.
Okay, well, those are all my questions. Do you
That's
have
it.
any other thoughts? We're
I thought
yeah, that we're
I
out.
thought
I'm out.
you were gonna have some hard hitting questions.
Dude, this is my first rodeo here. Okay.
You're doing a great job, by the way. And I think that the player profile interviews are a great thing. I think a lot of fans, not fans, players. We're all players, right? We're not. It's not fans. We're just other. I
Right.
mean, if I
Yes.
wasn't in the top four, I'd want to listen to these as well. Um, but like Mike Whalen is doing a great job, streaming with you. That Norbert hasn't had a stream yet. I know he's been busy, and with all the Europe out, the time zones are just messed up for him. Um,
Yep.
but like, I think people enjoy the behind the scenes. Who is the player, right? Who, when you're on the stream and your wife actually comes on and talks, and you're talking to her. I think that's hilarious, and I think that's great. Um, to people see the personality side because we are all on TTS and it is it seems so online, but I talk to you've seen me. I talk to a lot of people about their life and ask them questions about their jobs and stuff because I want to write a whole book about them and know everything so I can use it against them. But for real, it's just like the connection. Like, right, I've met Curtis once in the last just squad goals the first time I met him, but I know a lot about him. I can't remember his kids' names off the top of my head because he has three of them. But I know he has three kids. That's
Yes.
something, right? And I know you have two kids and stuff like that. And I love knowing that kind of stuff. So I think this is great. And I wish people would do it more and show their personality and, we're a community. So I'm happy to be here. I got my videos where I'll talk my smack. Hopefully, my hope, if I win my last goals, I hope Curtis wins tomorrow because he's my friend, and then I hope we don't get each other, and then I hope somehow we both beat each other, and then beat their guys, then we meet in the finals, and then I beat him again, and that would
Right.
be like the dream scenario. But we have to. We didn't. One thing we didn't talk about that we can mention briefly is lists are now unlocked because of the updates, so we can do anything we want. They'll be locked again for the top four. So like whatever I pick, I have to play for the next two games,
Yep.
assuming I win. But it's a big like decision. It's kind of weird that it came up in the top four. Like I think it would have been a little more interesting. This is not. I mean, it is what it is. But
Yes.
if it came up in the top eight, obviously Nick Patry would probably like that more because I used three cards that were changed against him last night. But that's not the reason. The reason being is, and I'm not trying to. I mean, if lists were open, this would be a problem anyway. Like I know who the three players potentially will be. I mean, we'll know tomorrow morning. And then I could say, well, is Sooner going to switch to X Force? Is he not? Is Geisman going to switch off Defenders? They're probably thinking, am I going to switch on Convo? I there are possibilities to switch. I mean, Curtis probably won't switch because Hellfire didn't barely got touched. But like, there's a little mini game now that maybe if it was top eight, it would be a little bit harder to guess because the top eight had 8 people with 7 different affiliations. So who knows where people would go? Most people will probably stick very similar, just stick by their guns. But it's a decision to make because like it hurts. Like I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and the robbery. I don't care. I'll play Rhino if I play combo no matter what. I'm fine with how that card changed. But the Age of Ultron one, like, and I'm not here to be a stand about like, oh, they shouldn't have changed it. I'm happy, but he had a very specific role for very specific matchups, and without that card, I don't think I can handle those like attrition teams the same way. So I got to rethink how I'm going to handle that, and that's fine. So I'll I'll see. And I just want to comment on this.
Yes.
There are things as a player like I'm in that ground of like I want to win, and I will play good things. Like I play Rhino and stuff, but there are like I will like never switch to Hellfire. I won't play Webs even if I'm not saying I'm not even saying like oh I play a weak affiliation, but I'm on that line of like I don't like playing Thanos. I don't think I could ever play Thanos. Um, so I have like this very like moral ground of like a couple things I won't do.
Right.
So that's where I want to win with something that is strong but unique enough that people go, oh that's cool, right? Sure, I take Ultron, I take Rhino, but it's still convocation with bumps and stuff like that. There's still some cool things as opposed to like taking the Thanos Red Skull 3, Zemo 15 type crap, right? So And that's not to hate on anybody. I mean, the top four besides Curtis is actually a pretty interesting list, including the loaded dice list. So we actually got a pretty nice, array if things had been locked even from now on. So hopefully that remains for the last two games. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I don't want to give away what I'm going to do.
Yeah, of course.
Um, but it's open, and we're going to see a whole new world of a meta where people realize that mission objective was always never needed, and they're going to learn to live without it. I was always anti that card, to be fair. Um, in a respectful, I understand it's good way, but I don't want to play it way. But
So
yeah, no, I'm excited. Any
you
questions from
guys,
what I just said?
yeah, you guys basically have been playing unlocked rosters this whole time. You just didn't know it.
I know.
And how do you feel about the lock versus unlock in general?
I have liked the lock. Now it's unfortunate that in the top four, like the big changes come and we have to like make some decisions. It's not that big a deal, but it is kind of like okay, kind of in any others the last two seasons this wouldn't it wouldn't have mattered because there wasn't a big enough change in the middle. I don't think.
Right.
I like locked. I think it's made it more exciting to follow because you know what affiliations are going to be, you know what matchups are going to be. Hey, listen, I'll be completely honest with you. I played besides the tournament I won, like my local and the top cuts. I haven't played any convocation games in the last like month. I played Midnight Suns practice games. I played the lunch meet with Midnight Suns. I don't I don't care if people play 100 games, but I haven't. I've done some I've looked at I have some spreadsheet stuff where I'm like, okay, what could potentially the combos be? But I don't think Curtis, me, or Sooner, or maybe Geisman just plays a lot of games. Period. I don't think anybody like grinded out 100 games of the same exact roster. Even if I make the finals, I'm not going to. I don't even want to. I'll think about it, but I don't want to think about it to that level. I like it. I just think it makes it more exciting to follow. I don't, you see Norbert stream for the finals with Kyle, and it's like Brotherhood versus Convocation, and it was Thanos versus Red. It was Red Skull 3 versus Red Skull 3,
Right. Yes, it was. Yeah.
right? And you're just like, oh, well, shit. And
Wasn't it Researcher, Demons Researcher, or something like that? Or
it was Researcher Gamma, I think,
oh yeah,
because it was
yes, yeah,
15.
yeah.
And no disrespect to Kyle, he did a great job and he won. But like that, I'll put it. This is my and I talk to Kyle a lot because he helps. We have a Suns list together. He created a very cool Brotherhood list that no one saw coming and is a popular thing right now.
Right.
And that was really cool. And I felt like I don't want to say he wasn't rewarded, but like I felt like at the very end, he didn't change his ways. And then, Kyle wasn't playing that roster exactly that
That's right.
until the end, right? He didn't play that 15, was not in his list until the very last game. And I just I think it took a lot of wind out of people's sails of like the unlocked rosters because it was like, damn, we have this cool list that if it was locked from the beginning, would have never gotten that finals. And maybe Collar wins it just because of the uniqueness, how good that list is.
Yes.
That's why it kind of felt weird at the end because you are going to get these people who don't change their list, and especially if it's a cool roster, and if they keep winning with it, you get this game of chicken again. He
Yeah,
could have
yeah.
won that game. It's not like it was hard countered, but it kind of is nice going in being like, oh cool, like it's going to be convocation versus X, right? Like, and
Yes.
here's the
That's cool.
potential, and I like that. I like that. Not even as a spectator, I like that. Sure, I do think because the changes happened, I don't want to keep my old list for 2 weeks. I feel like it would feel weird, right? We all have things that are changing, and I
Yes.
think we'd all agree that we want to change it. But if asked again, I would close. I would always vote to close it and only change it for like big changes, like what just happened, obviously.
Right.
Unfortunate that it happened in the top four. I think it would have been more interesting if it was top eight. Just from a perspective of like, I don't know. I just thought so. If it was next week, like if this was the week, like this week
Yes.
is going to
Yeah.
be the
Right.
final,
Yeah.
I would have said keep it. Like don't let us change our list for one game.
Right.
And
Exactly.
honestly, I could have seen a world where they say we're not changing lists, but we voted to do it. So
Yep. That
two
makes
weeks
sense.
is on the brink of like I just want to get to my new shit.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So a couple of things there. I think that the players that changed their lists were adapting in the best possible ways based on the rule set. So you have to, as a competitive player, I appreciate the fact that Kyle was able to utilize the past information and who Collar beat and how he beat them to then develop a list. And Collar was just like, he did evolve, but he didn't take the next step, which was countering what would be like countering the counter type of thing.
Hmm.
And of course, that's very hard to do. And until you lose, right? If you're winning with this list constantly, it's hard to find out how you would lose. So, and then how to beat the thing that you might lose to. It's very complicated. So,
Yeah.
but then, yeah, I think, I mean, from a storyline and like the roster perspective, I would have kept it all the same. No, I would have voted to keep the rosters locked all the way through. Ultimately, that you guys, as a the majority or the plurality, voted for the way you're having it now. So
Yeah.
it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have no problem if it's open. I mean, I will change secures and stuff if I think like it'll help me. I don't change like huge things. I don't like revamp everything, but I'll play the game. Like, don't get me wrong. In cuts, those times where I'll change, like, oh, I think I might play this. I'm gonna take out, you know, Gamma and put in something else because they're playing some attrition list or something. But I think I can't fault the players because he's not the only one who did it. Lots of it, you do it too, playing the game.
Yeah.
But if you ask me which one I want locked. that's
Right.
that's the only way to put it. But yeah, I'm excited to see what happens. Like, listen, if I don't play combo, it's not going to be like Thanos Cabal, right? Or Hellfire, or Webs. I'm not going to switch that. Like, if I switched anything, it would either be like, here's the secret sauce. I'm either playing Convocation, something with Sam Avengers, or I'm playing Midnight Suns.
Right.
Because those are the people I've actually played, and maybe a duel where like my attrition is Red Skull 3, but no Thanos. I won't do Thanos. Well, then I lose Ultron. So fuck, why would I even do that?
Okay. Well, either way,
Yeah,
either
sorry,
way.
sorry. We're going too long. How
No,
long
it's
has it
okay. It's
been?
okay. We're good. We're good to go. We're gonna wrap it up here, and I'll tell you what. If you win the whole thing, we'll do it again. All right.
Excellent.
Okay. So yes, thank you very much, Schmid, for joining me, and you can check out his YouTube channel. What is it? Just Schmid. What
Red
else?
Gaming.
Schmid
Schmid.
Gaming on YouTube, and he has his content about the rosters he's been playing and all that. And so, anyway, thank you very much for joining me. This has been episode 1 of Sheik and Schmid, episode 2 TBD, and have a good night, man.
You too. Thanks.